Okay, I am outside, so if you hear birds or dogs barking, they're just in my backyard, or somebody else's backyard. So number 5 from the review session wants the distance between these 2 points. Okay, and so remember the distance formula for polar coordinates? It's the square root of r1 squared plus r2 squared minus 2 times r1 times r2 and the cosine of theta 2 minus theta 1. Okay, this is r1 theta 1, r2 theta 2. So we just substitute in. So this would be the square root of 4 plus 1 minus 2 times 2 times cosine of 7 pi over 12 minus 5 pi over 4. Now don't be careless here and make silly mistakes. You don't even need a calculator for this one. The square root of 5, say that, minus 4 cosine. So 7 pi over 12 minus 5 pi over 12 would be 7 pi over 12 minus 15 pi over 12. So I get cosine of negative 8 pi over 12, which is negative 2 pi, if I divide by 4, 12. If I divide each top and bottom by 4, I get negative 2 pi over 3. So cosine of negative 2 pi over 3. So it's the square root of 5 minus 4. Now negative 2 pi over 3 cosine. This would be negative pi over 3. Here's negative cosine 2 pi or negative 2 pi over 3 over here. Third quadrant, pi over 3 cosine would be negative 1/2. So times negative 1/2. And so you get the square root of 5 minus negative 2, which is the square root of 7. So that looks like it's answer D on your review pack. All right, now we're going to go on to number 6. It asks you to graph r equals 4, and it does not give you the polar coordinate plane, so we're going to have to draw it. And what r equals 4, do you remember how that looks? That's just r all the way around, so it would be a circle, right? So we're going to start out with a dot for the middle, and then there's our 1, and try to make these about the same width apart. And I know I need at least 4 because it's r equals 4, but I'm going to give myself one more. Oops, that's kind of bad circle. Let me do it. Try to do it a little better. But that's, hey, we're all here. So that's 1. So if you draw your polar axis, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, I want you to make sure you draw some of the angles in here. So that's your pi over 3. So go ahead and do the other pi over 3. That's your pi over 6. Let's draw that a little narrower. Let's do our pi over 4s. That's easy, right through the middle. So there's your pi over 4s. And then we'll do these narrow pi over 6s. And then this one. And then this one. And this one. Okay. So going around, let me erase some of this so we don't look so ridiculous. Spider web. Okay. So going around, this is 0 or 2 pi, right? And then it's pi over 6, pi over 4, pi over 3, pi over 2. All right, and then this is 3 pi over 2, right? And in this case, you can just have that many if you want. So what would r equal 4 be? Well, it would be just this line. Let me make it really fat. This line right there, all around 4. So remember, if you're asked to graph just the r, it's every point on this line, it's like if I were doing points, it'd be all these points. These are all r equal 4, all the way around to every angle, and so it makes a circle. Number 7 asks to graph theta equals negative 5 pi over 3. Now, this is just making the angle, every r on the angle of negative 5 pi over 3. So we'll start out making our circle again. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, it doesn't matter how many I do, okay, for this one. Now, those are your polar axis and theta over 2. Here's your pi over 4s. Okay, here's your pi over 3s. Here's your pi over 6s. Okay, clean that up a little bit. Okay, now this is negative 5 pi over 3, so I'm going to go backwards. If this is 0, this is negative pi over 6, negative pi over 4, negative pi over 3, negative pi over 2, right? And negative 2 pi over 3, negative 3 pi over 4, and negative 5 pi over 6, and negative pi, and this would be, keep going around negative, this would be sorry, my brain stopped. Okay, this is 7 pi over 6, negative 7 pi over 6, and this is 5 pi over 4, and this is 4 pi over 3, and this is negative 3 pi over 2, and guess what's next? This is negative 5 pi over 3. So it's going to be this line right here. Goes both ways. Now you don't have to do it negative. You could have done it all the positive ones and then backed up. Ooh, there's like a helicopter going overhead. Okay. So that was 5, 6, and 7.